Are tanks and heavy armor obsolete? Go behind the scenes of a terrifying military midair collision. And the Army is pushing lethal napping. All that this week on The Briefing. It's time to throw the lines on this episode. Let's disembark. Welcome back to The Briefing. I'm Andrea Scott. In our top story this week, savage fighting in a border region between Armenia and Azerbaijan has yielded harrowing images as the sides trade blows on each other's armor. Video after video show tanks being destroyed by air and drone strikes, prompting the question, are tanks obsolete in modern warfare? Military Times managing editor Howard Altman explores.
The world is watching as fighting broke out recently in the Nagorno-Karabakh region. It's an Armenian enclave in Azerbaijan. A lot of videos emerging of that conflict showing tanks being blown up apparently by drones, anti-tank guided missiles, and by other weapons. And it raises the question once again, are tanks still a viable weapon in modern warfare? We spoke with one armor expert to get his opinion on what this all means. We're here with Mike Jason, a retired Army colonel who spent most of his 24 years in armor. Mike, you're looking at some video. What are you seeing here?
Thanks, Howard. Well, first off, what we're seeing is kind of scary. It's scary for an armor guy who's driving around in a tank and you're watching it explode in air. But what we're seeing is I'm seeing a lot of tanks such as T-72s and armored vehicles like BMP-1s. These are vehicles from the early 70s and late 60s, so 50-year-old technology that are getting hit out in the middle of fields in the open.
In the videos you're seeing, what are the biggest threats that are being posed to the armor on both sides?
So what we have here is it looks like there's precision munitions being used from what I'm assuming, I think many of us are assuming, are drones, which are now the new inexpensive way of having an air force with precision weapons. And so right now there's a lot of talk about, is this the demise of armor? Is this the demise of tanks? Well, I think that's a little premature. We have to be very careful of what lessons we are learning here based on the limited observation that we're having. But the fundamental lessons never change, and that is about the necessity and the way we fight is through combined arms. And it requires an incredible amount of professionalism, training, and preparation for militaries to fight in a combined arms fashion.
What do you think our adversaries or potential adversaries are taking away from this conflict?
I think what we'll probably see is that we can give, the adversary can give a very cheap drone with a precision system to a third party, to potentially a terrorist organization, and have some initial pretty good successes.
And over the weekend, ISIS used weaponized drones armed with grenades against Iraqi forces.
It probably does not require much, but video game capabilities. You know, you play a lot of Call of Duty, and then we give you this pretty inexpensive device, and you can effectively take out some precision targets. That's scary. So flooding the battlefield with these things initially, especially to our allies or countries that are more developing, that are not as professional, not as experienced, it can probably be very, very, very unsettling for our partners and allies.
Mike Jason, we thank you very much.
Thanks, Howard. Great to be with you.
Thanks, Howard. Now, onto this week's headlines. Tensions were high last week after a terrifying midair refueling collision between a Marine F-35 and KC-130. The mishap resulted in an emergency landing for the Hercules and the destruction of the fighter jet after the pilot ejected. Images on social media show what appears to be the fighter crashing in the desert. Everyone survived the accident, but audio from the Hercules' cockpit reveals the danger of the situation.
LA Center, Raider 50 declaring emergency midair collision with Bolt 93. We have 2 engines out. We're leaking fuel and might be on fire. And an emergency descent at this time. Raider 50.
Next up, the Marine Corps' first new base in 70 years. For the first time since 1952, the Marine Corps has activated a new base. Camp Laz on Guam will soon be the home of nearly 5,000 Marines of the 3rd Marine Expeditionary Force, currently in Okinawa, Japan. The base will be named after a Vietnam Bronze Star recipient and the first Chamorro Marine to attain the rank of General Officer. Next up, are you ready for a nap? Can more naps for you make you more lethal? The Army is checking out the concept of strategic sleeping. A recently updated Army manual suggests that soldiers can take naps to enhance performance. And when sleep time is unpredictable, they can, quote, take the longest nap possible as frequently as time is available. They should put that in the recruiting material. And finally, your outgoing rounds. In our outgoing rounds this week, want to see how pararescue jumpers do it when you have a problem 150 miles out at sea? Well, they jump. A new video shows 3 Air Force PJs deploying from an HC-130 and parachuting into open water near Hawaii to help a man with symptoms of a stroke. A Navy helicopter later retrieved the man and medevaced him to shore. That's how it's done. And that's all we have time for this week. Please visit us on militarytimes.com and our social pages on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And check us out on Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps Times for the latest news. I'm Andrea Scott. Have a great week.